Okay, today we have the Hiboy Max Pro. This is my absolute first ride on this thing. Absolute first ride. I mean, other than riding it the, few hundred feet to where I started recording, this is it. So this is a $650 electric scooter. So the price is actually really interesting. Not interesting, but compelling. It's a good price. And the big thing, from what I can tell, is these larger wheels. These are either 11 or I think 12-inch wheels on this thing. And it's actually immediately noticeable. I think going from like 9 inches to 10 inches on an electric scooter, you don't really tell much. And there's a little bit of a jump when you go from like 10 to 11, but when you jump up to 12, that's when you start to feel like a significant difference in the ride quality. Nice and squishy and comfortable. It does have full suspension, but it definitely feels like the wheels are doing most of the heavy lifting when it comes to the ride comfort. It's supposed to have a top speed of 22 miles an hour. Seems to be doing that, at least displayed. It was saying like 21, even going up the hill there. But so far, I actually really like it. Hiboy hasn't been on the channel for a while, mostly because, obviously I review a ton of different brands, and sometimes, other brands get neglected. I'm only one person, and I did have my brother helping out on the channel for the summer, but he's now not here, so I'm back to doing everything myself. And there's only so much I can, only so many brands I can review. And I know that Hiboy makes some good budget scooters. I've ridden the S2 and the S2 Pro, liked those. But I think this offers a very unique scooter at the price. At $650, it's going to, they've done a good job of differentiating it, I think. It's really big. There's a ton of riding platform space. The wheels are giant, and it's plenty quick. I mean, once you get over 20 miles an hour on a quote-unquote entry-level scooter, it's actually really quick and actually really fun. I also like that the handlebars are nice and high. That was one of the biggest things I noticed when I first got on it, is that they don't have the usual Chinese rider dimensions. A lot of the Chinese brands, they really don't consider, the brands that are designing in China and maybe existed in China before they came over to the West, they have really low handlebars because the average rider is shorter. But these are really comfortable, and it lets you take a really casual approach to your riding. I don't feel like I need to be in a super sporty stance. I can be in a really casual stance because the handlebars are nice and upright. Got the big wheels and the suspension. I'm actually genuinely impressed so far. They did, obviously, right off the bat, you can see that they cheaped out on a couple things. The display is kind of just, whatever. The display doesn't really matter that much, but this throttle is super plasticky. You can hear it. I really wish they would stop using this, off-the-shelf parts bin throttle on scooters. But generally, you're going to be holding down the throttle all the way most of the time, and so, it's not the hugest deal. Something that I definitely don't like are these brakes. It's not that they're mechanical. They're really decent for mechanical brakes. I don't think it needs anything more than that, but they're not adjustable because there's the wires, the electronic wires run into the handlebar section here, and there's a little groove along the front. And because of that, it looks like they haven't given any tolerance for them to move around. So if you try to move the things down, it pulls on that, tugs on the wires inside, won't let you adjust the angle of the the levers. So they're kind of flat. I'd like them tipped down a little bit more for my height. But because the handlebars are taller, it's not as big of a deal as it would be if the handlebars were lower. I know this isn't the most exciting scooter ever, but there will be lots more rides coming up, especially the Yumi X11 Plus. I just got in, and that's a big beefy 50-mile-an-hour off-road scooter, and I'm going to be going up north into the wilderness of Nevada this weekend to go camping, and I will be taking that to do a ride. So stay tuned for that one, and I'll probably also post my first ride on the X11 on the street, like when I do it first do a street ride as well. A lot of this footage is footage, normally this is footage that I get for the review, but on my first rides I generally don't talk a whole lot. I more just ride and analyze. But I thought it would be fun to take you guys along for, for all my first rides when I get my first impressions of a scooter. You can see my first unfiltered reaction to the scooter. I don't have to think about exactly what I'm saying. I kind of just ramble while I ride. And also, I think some people think that they go well, you only like the scooter because they sent it to you or whatever, or you only like the scooter because you want more brands to work with you. But the reality is a lot of these scooters genuinely are just good, and there's more good things to talk about than bad. And I think kind of showcasing my first reaction to them will show that. Most scooters nowadays, a lot of the trash, if you go with an established brand, a lot of the trash that popped up during COVID has been filtered out. And so there's not as many just full-on garbage brands that you get on the scooter and you're oh crap, this is awful. Because I've had a couple of those. I've had scooters so bad that I haven't even bothered reviewing them because it just felt like a waste of time. But here, super solid. I think my other biggest complaint with them, and we'll see if this ends up affecting me while I'm testing, is their tubed tires. And I can't tell if the rims are split. I think the front rim is split and the back rim has one set of bolts on it. So I don't know if that set of bolts is to take the motor apart or it's to split the hub. But I am a little bit worried about a flat tire because they also tell you to only run the tires at 35 PSI. So I pumped them up to 35. Normally tubed tires, you want to run around 50 to help prevent pinch flats. And I don't know if, oh, that's bird's injured. I don't know if they have a different pressure number because of the larger tires, but we'll see. We'll see if any flats pop up while I'm riding and testing. It looks like it is firmware capped at 22 miles an hour. It doesn't look like it wants to go any faster than that. Oh yeah, you can see the power is backing off. There's a little bar up top. You can't see it because I've got the ND filter on to help with the sun, help with my frame rate a little bit. So that's not going to be visible, but there's a little power bar on the top of the display that shows how much power you're outputting, just relatively. It doesn't have a number or anything, but that got dialed way back once I hit 22. It was just putting out just a little bit of power in order to maintain that 22 mile an hour mark. So it's definitely limited. I don't remember the motor power numbers off the top of my head right now. But you can see there, it didn't have too many problems with that hill. You know, it's not the steepest hill, but it's kind of more or less what you encounter in most cities. Seems to be doing well. The ride's nice and comfortable. I definitely I'm not a fan of the positioning of these levers the more I ride. These brake levers. I need to get over to the other side of the road. I like to do my, I was thinking about crossing there, but I'll just cross up at the light. I sometimes like to do my range test on my first ride just to get it out of the way. Sometimes these, sometimes these range tests take a long time, man. And draining a battery to zero, especially in 120-degree heat, is not my favorite thing ever. So sometimes I just do it while I'm out, but we'll see. I think maybe I'll just do just like a first to get my impressions down. Because generally when it comes to my workflow for doing reviews, obnoxious. My workflow when it comes to reviews is, because I've done so many, I can get a really good idea of what a scooter is good at and what maybe it's not so good at pretty fast. So I can start getting my thoughts down for the review in riding after my first ride. And then kind of between the range test and any other rides that I decide to do during the week that I usually test a scooter, I continue to elaborate on that script. So all my scripts are written by me. There's no AI help, nothing like that. I've never been accused of using AI, but I have had people behind the scenes or other YouTubers that I've talked to ask me if I use AI for my scripts, because they're very informational and very straightforward. And so I think sometimes they can come off as being AI generated when they're absolutely not. That's just how I write. And when I first started the channel, my goal was to make a channel that to essentially make the content that I would want to watch myself. And I think the biggest thing was that I liked, when it came to purchasing an electric scooter, when I purchased my first one, I wanted the information straightforward. I didn't want someone goofing off or necessarily a lot of like fluff, you know. I think there are channels for that have a lot of just like pure riding and goofing around, and I think that has its own niche, but I wanted to be the informative niche. I wanted to be the type of person that could give an informed review and help someone make an informed decision on a scooter to buy. And I also try to take a very practical approach. There's definitely, I definitely like the spec side, and I definitely like the data side. I don't mind finding like an exact range number and finding an exact top speed number. But also, a lot of what makes scooters I like great are the overall experience. And sometimes it's something that is not as tangible, not as easy to put a finger on. Sometimes it's hard to explain exactly why a scooter is so compelling, if that makes sense. A lot of the time it's just so many like small little things that combine, and so I try to convey that in my reviews. This is Walter Johnson Jr. Hi, this is where I went to middle school. If you come to Las Vegas, don't send your kids to Johnson. It not a great school. Not a great school. I know it's really gone downhill since I went there. It's been a minute since I've driven past Johnson. But yeah, if you're watching this video and you've made it to this point, I would love to hear your thoughts on kind of what else you want to see, and you know, maybe what scooters you want to see, and if me rambling about things that aren't the scooter is even interesting. You know, I'm always happy to talk more about the scooter, but generally, like, my first impressions, I've kind of given you all of them. Seems like a really solid scooter for the price. It's definitely, when it comes to scooter reviewing, I think there's a lot of scooters that are just like good, you know, are really decent and would be great options and anyone would be happy with. But I feel like it's really hard now to find something that's like super compelling, where you ride it and you're like, oh, okay, this is amazing. Like, I ride this and I go, okay, this is a great scooter. If you really want 12-inch tires and you want a very comfortable ride at this price point, you know, this does about the speeds that other single motor scooters do at the price, and it's one of the most comfortable rides. But also you've got your Segway F3, which is full suspension, similar speeds, a little bit more technology, and it has better suspension, so you're going to get a similar, you know, comfort experience. I can't say for certain that I like one over the other, because the scooters at this price also, I think, have a larger margin for error. Like, you can get away at the, so let me explain myself. At the very highest speeds, like when you're going 40, 50 miles an hour or faster than that, you notice every little thing, and the suspension needs to be dialed in perfectly, and it needs to be stable so that it doesn't wobble. And if the wheels are not perfectly balanced, you get really bad wobble sometimes, and all these little things that are easy to tell because all the flaws get exposed at the higher speeds. However, at 20 miles an hour, you can have some of that wiggle room, and even the best brands are going to know that they have some wiggle room, and so it might not have all those things. The wheels might not be perfectly balanced. It might have a tiny bit of brake rubbing potentially, or they know that like the brakes don't need to be absolutely perfect. They have some wiggle room, and so what you end up with is a slew of electric scooters that are really decent at the price. And you know, it's hard to pinpoint anything that you really dislike. You just kind of have to look at the small details and figure out what specifically you want for your personal needs. For some people, the tubed tires might be a deal breaker. You might be worried about flats. You might regularly run into flats with another scooter you have or with a bike you have, and you go, okay, I can't be changing a tube. I'd rather just have tubeless tires, and then if I do get a puncture, I can just put some slime or some armadillos in it and seal that up and be fine, and I don't have to worry about pinch flats and that kind of stuff. Or you might be the type that's like, I don't mind changing a tube and I like the bigger, cushy wheels. In that case, this would be the scooter for you. I used to walk this street to go to my house where I used to live. So I would go back there at Johnson and I would walk. And I remember as a kid, it felt like the absolute longest walk ever. I used to listen to, there's a 20-minute song by Rush, 2112. I had it on my phone. And when you're a kid, like 20 to 30 minutes walking feels like the longest time ever. And so like I used to listen to that, song and walk as fast as I could. And I knew around the time that the song was ending, I would be home. And so I could just enjoy the song, try to just focus on the song, walk as fast as I could, and then walk up this hill up here to the house. Might as well go by it. You go, viewers, you get an exclusive look at my at the house I grew up in. Obviously not there anymore, and no one I know is there, so I'm not doxing anyone. I would have loved a scooter like this in middle school. I can see why they've gotten popular with middle schoolers and high schoolers. For legal reasons, I probably shouldn't condone that, but. And then these houses right here to the left, they have those big windows, and kids used to walk by and throw rocks and break those windows. I obviously never did that. Shouldn't say obviously, I guess you don't know that I wouldn't do that, but I'm telling you I never did that. And, but I mean, I swear, like at least once a week, one of those windows would be smashed by rocks. And a lot of the neighbors put up like nets to block the rocks. Kids were, I mean, that's the kind of kids that went to my middle school. And there was also along that road I was just on, I would go by a house that it clearly wasn't occupied, but it had like an alarm system. And I remember for a week straight, like someone had smashed the window and the alarm was just going off. So there's just like an alarm going off every day as I walked by the house for a week. Here it is, to our left here. There's the house. Nice, it looks good. It's good. It kind of got, do they still have the trampoline? No trampoline. Is that like a rock climbing wall in the back? That's funny. That's good. Okay, there were some people living there that kind of let it get a little run down, and it looks like there's different people there now, so that's really good. Nice. Yeah, this is my old stomping grounds. I knew everyone. I knew a lot of people along the street. I had friends that lived in these houses along here. I used to run, so when I would do, I used to do triathlons. And if you run across the street up into that neighborhood, all the way to the top of the neighborhood, you could run all the way to the top of that neighborhood and back down, and it was 1 mile each way. And I had to run a 5K for the triathlons I did. I do like the sprint triathlons, which is half the length of an Olympic triathlon. And it had a 5K, and the way you train for running, at least the way that I read that you train for running, is you don't run your full distance. You kind of rely on your adrenaline to push you past that. So you train about half of what you're actually going to be running in the triathlon. If I remember correctly, you swim like 3 or 4 times. When you train, you swim 3 or 4 times what you're going to be swimming in the triathlon. You bike as long as you're going to be biking in the triathlon to train, and then you do about half of what you're going to be running. I don't know where I saw those numbers or if that's actually applicable, but it worked really well for me. I always did really well. But I would always run up through my neighborhood and then up through the upper section of the neighborhood and back down as fast as I could. And I used to be able to do 2 miles in like about 12 minutes. So I used to be able to average like a 6 mile pace for a 5K. Obviously would come over here. There's like a Manhattan pizza place in here. And they had the best like thin crust, greasy, garlicky pizza ever. And so when I moved back here about 1.5 years ago, that was one of the first places I went, because I was like, this has the best pizza I've ever had. And it's under new ownership, and it's not thin crust. And yeah, it wasn't very good. And I think they had just purchased it because they were like, I was the only one in there, and They like begged me to go review them, and I was like, they're like, will you please go and leave a review? Did you like the pizza? No, that's fine. Okay, please go leave us a 5-star review. It's like, probably not. Got the fire department up here. Added some nice advertising. Still don't have a bike lane. It's gotten sketchy down here, man. Relatively not that sketchy, but like this definitely was not like at all even in the slightest, like a rough part of town. This was like very much just like a normal suburban neighborhood. I guess things have changed just a little bit. It's really not that bad. But compared to when I used to live here. But at that point, I mean, at this point, about 10 years ago was the last time I was down here. More than that, maybe 12. I did used to walk or longboard this exact route to go down to, there's a bus terminal down here. We'll actually ride past it. Or I actually learned later that I could just stop at, I'll go here, this bus stop right here, and it would take me down to the Meadows Mall. So if you're from Las Vegas, or I don't know, you've ever been there, this one would go down to the Meadows Mall, and that I would go to the YMCA, and I'd work as a lifeguard there. And I would wait at that bus stop. Or I could, if I had a longer wait, sometimes I'd leave early to make sure I didn't miss the bus, because I had to go to work. And so if I had a longer wait, there's a terminal up here that has like an indoor waiting area that I could go to, except it would require me like continuing to push my skateboard and ride my longboard over these rough sidewalks. No bike lane. Vegas isn't a super friendly place to ride in terms of scooters and bikes and stuff. Oh, I forgot to mention that this is supposed to have a 46.6 mile max range or whatever, which would be ridiculous. Going off the general rule of thumb that you get half of the range in the max speed mode, if this would get 23 miles of range, that would be amazing for the price. Typically you see kind of between 15 and 20 miles in the max riding mode from the longest range scooters in this price class, unless you buy something really bulky and heavy. There it is, the Westcliff Transit Center. These guys aren't gonna stop because I don't have a walk sign. But now there's actually a park. Well, the park that we rode through initially at the beginning of the ride, Kellogg's there, they have a tennis center over here, and I'm taking up tennis. So there you go. You get Mitchell telling you everything about himself while he rides. Can't beat this exclusive content. I mean, it says the battery's still basically full. We'll have to see how far we've done. As we get closer back to where we started, I will check I'll check the range and kind of see. I can't get an exact battery number, but it looks, I mean, it doesn't look like it's lost a single R, which is very interesting, because I want to say that we've done a good amount of distance. There's no way we haven't done at least like 8 to 10 miles. But maybe not. I guess we've only been going 20, probably averaging around 10 or 12 with the stops. We've been riding, yeah, so maybe it's only like 5 or 6 miles. We still would have lost the battery bar by now, I feel like, but maybe not. Ultra careful here. This will turn into a bike lane eventually. Yeah, it does not want to go faster than 22. It is very hard firmware locked at 22 miles an hour. Overall, I've really liked the scooter though. I mean, I don't have much to complain in terms of actually getting out and riding on it. It's got tube tires. It's a little bit annoying, the brake lever position, and the thumb throttle is a bit plasticky, but again, $650, so you can't really expect perfection at this price. I've yet to find a scooter that is definitively the best, absolute best scooter at this price. Like I mentioned before, lots of just great ones, and there might be a feature on one or another that appeals to you specifically. It's been nice and comfortable too. There's no rear foot rest, but the platform's so big and wide that I haven't really felt like I need it. Okay, while we wait for this light, you can take a look at how far we've gone and see if we lose a battery bar here. Wait. Ouch. Hit myself in the shin. I don't know how much time we're actually gonna have on this light. I'm actually gonna turn. Yeah, we've gone 9 miles. It says we haven't lost a single battery bar. So either this is inaccurate or it's going to go and then magically lose all of its battery bars. Thanks. Like right at the end. Oh, I also forgot to mention that this is like out of the box everything. So I haven't touched anything. I haven't adjusted the brakes. I don't know if this is, you can take off the kick to start. I would like to do that if it was 0 start, but right now it's kick to start. I also don't know if you can adjust acceleration. I think there is an app, so I'll take a look at that. I don't love apps. I wish you could just change everything on the scooter itself, but so be it. All right, so we went like 9 miles. We just lost the battery bar. If that's accurate, then this might actually do the full 40 miles, which means I'm gonna have to spread out this range test over a couple days because I am baking. I'm going to head back home. Thanks for riding along with me, and I will see you in the next one.